our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good afternoon, everybody. Got a couple of things going on. Like I had said earlier, I am working on. But what I want to do is reach more people. Is the goal. So I'm doing a little bit more. I don't want to say promoting because I don't really know how to promote, but I've decided to add Instagram back on. Hey, Michelle, good to see you. So I might be flipping back and forth because Instagram, it doesn't pop up on this side. And it's about a 20-second lag. And that's kind of a thing. I may seem a little distracted. My wife is on the phone. She's taking care of some things, but she has it on speakerphone, and so I can hear everybody talking. And so if I say something weird, you're going to know why. Sometimes people say things, and then and hi, Leisure on Instagram. Good to see you. But sometimes people be saying things and it gets caught in what I'm saying. Decided to switch over to YouTube, huh, Leisure? Yeah, Instagram, there's a 20-second lag, bro. So, but I figure probably best to just start getting on there and stuff. But it seems like whenever I do it, it doesn't post it, it just discards the video. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. There's some people that have been bringing up emotional sobriety lately. I've been hearing it in the meetings, people bringing it up, things like that. So we are going to actually be in a book called Language of the Heart. I apologize. I'm just checking on Instagram, see how it's doing. Okay. You don't know what you clicked. It's Saturday morning. You're just like, I'm just gonna click, see what happens. But I've been making clips and stuff of what I do and things like that. I can do it through Restream and so if there's a 30-second part that you really like in this, let me know. I'll mark down the time. But I'm not willing to go through my whole video to pick out a clip. Just not willing to do that. So a little bit of extra work. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. I'm your host. I'm the host of the Daily Trudge. Have been for over 7 years now. If you're here, please say hello, whether watching the live or the rewatch. As stated this morning, you're probably going to start seeing some changes here. I plan on changing the background, and I plan on changing the format a little bit. I will still be talking about recovery, but I'm going to start to pull away from AA itself a little bit. And the reasons being is I'm going to have extra content that's paid for and things like that. And I don't want to break tradition. I'm setting up a business for myself. I am not going to align myself with anybody but God anymore. I won't do it. Of course, I say that, but God has his plans. So that plan may change, but I guess I'm just tired of being misunderstood. So I'm going to do my own stuff. And people that want to do it, great, awesome. People that don't, great, awesome. I don't care no more. All right. So the next frontier, emotional sobriety. which was written in January 1958. This article is the substance of a letter Bill wrote to a close friend who also had troublesome depressions. Good morning, or good afternoon, Claire. Good to see you. Night. So this was written in 1958. And you would think, why is the Instagram video frozen? It's just frozen. It's not doing anything. Did I make my time on that? It's still stuck on welcome to the daily trudge. That's weird. That was minutes ago. All right. That makes no sense. All right. See, this is why I don't like, maybe what I'll do is just make clips and put them on Instagram is what I'll do, because clearly Instagram is not working. So, all right. We'll see what happens. I'm going to let it do what it's going to do. So let's get started. If you'd like to follow along and you have it, feel free to. You can also go to Google and download the PDF for it if you like. No, that's not doing anything. Weird. All right. I think that many oldsters who have put our AA booze cure to severe but successful tests still find they often lack emotional sobriety. Perhaps they will be the spearhead of the next major development in AA, the development of much more real maturity and balance, which is to say humility in our relations with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. All right. Good afternoon, Heather. It's good to see you. I find it funny because I've been around the program for a while, but I didn't find out about this right here till about, 6-7 years ago. So what happened to that? Hey, boomers. Do a little picking on the boomers. What happened, man? What happened, Gen X? Huh? Were you a little too afraid to get involved in that emotional sobriety? Pick on Gen X too. I get to do that because I'm Gen X. So there seemed to be a real emotional cutoff there with a couple of generations. Right. So anyway, I put the AA's booze cure to severe but successful tests. What he's talking about is some of us, emotional sobriety. So there's different types of sobriety. There's the physical sobriety. That means you ain't drinking. That's what that means. A spiritual sobriety, which means that you're looking for a higher power in your life. You're looking for a power greater than yourself, right? You're almost done cleaning Isaac's room. Good job, right? And then there's the emotional sobriety. And our emotional sobriety is usually the failure to grow up, to love appropriately. So they're talking about the 12 steps, the booze cure, right? Those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance. Urges quite appropriate to the age of 17 prove to be an impossible way of life when we're at the age of 47 or 57. Ooh. Kind of a slap in the face, isn't it? Right. If you go do studies done on alcoholics, you'll usually find a couple of consistencies, immaturity being one of them. So I started drinking at the age of 13, and that is where I became emotionally stunted. And I would try and run my life as a 13-year-old. If I didn't get what I wanted, I'd throw myself on the ground until I did get what I wanted, so on and so forth, right? I think Instagram just stopped my video after a certain amount of time, so we're going to end the live video over there. And it gives me the option to discard or view it in archive. See, I'm just going to fuck you, Instagram. Bye-bye. Every time I try and work with it, it just screws up, man. Right? So I would be 13 years old I'd be 13 trying to solve my problems that way. Right? So, when somebody throws themselves on the floor because they're not getting what they want and they're 37 years old, well, that leads to things like a 72-hour hold is what happens. Since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up emotionally and spiritually. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible, and how very painful to discover finally that all along we have had the cart before the horse. Not surprising. As an alcoholic, I tend to always have the cart before the horse. Yeah. We tend to think that our fears are going to be lowered when we get more courage. That would be one. Thinking that if everybody would just do us right, we could quit drinking. Those types of things. We didn't understand that it had to start with, it had to start with me first. Without that, there isn't going to be much. All right. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding. All right. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been. And how very painful to discover. Okay. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still finding ourselves unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. He's definitely talking about depression there. It only works for me when I set up a fresh new channel each time. Instagram, and I have to start go live on Instagram site. Yeah, I did all that, Leisure. And it started, but after 2-3 minutes, it just stopped my video. Maybe I don't have enough followers. Maybe I'm not popular enough to be allowed to go more than 3 minutes. I don't know. But I know Instagram ain't that important to me. I'll just make clips, put it on there, send people to my YouTube. All this is going to be on the website soon anyway. I'm just going to, all the clips and everything I do will just be to drive people to my website. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we're talking about depression here or other mental illnesses. We talk about this on page 58 a little bit. Many of us do have mental disorders, but we do recover if we have the capacity to be honest. Well, here's a place where we're going to have to be so honest with ourselves that, there's nothing wrong with being a Toys R Us kid. There's nothing wrong with playing and having fun, but this immaturity needs to stop. When we see old men hitting on women in meetings, what is that? It's emotional sobriety. They still think that if they can get the pretty girl to flirt with them, that they are something because of their failure to grow up. They are utilizing other people to make them feel better about themselves. And anytime that happens, sooner or later, that shit leads to suicide. It does. It leads to very low self-esteem. And we alcoholics have low self-esteem when we get here. That changes. Right? So, and I hear a lot of people talking about emotional sobriety, and it's clear they haven't read this and they don't quite know what they're talking about. It's about growing up. It's about loving appropriately, emotionally and spiritually. How to translate right mental conviction into right emotional result and so into easy, happy, and good living. Well, that's not only the neurotics problem, it's the problem of life itself for all of us who got to the point of real willingness to hew the right principles in all of our affairs. Yeah. So I've done the work, and I'm following the right principles now, but it really doesn't seem to be doing me much good. There's still something off. For me, I needed certain types of therapy. I did EMDR for my PTSD. It worked very, very well. It worked very, very well. Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us. Now, when you got everybody running around putting Band-Aids on things that needs tourniquets, then those people bleed and die. They just bleed out and die. Well, this will happen on an emotional level. You'll start bleeding out your emotions, right? Getting stuck in one problem, the insanity of the disease. I don't need alcohol in me for me to act insane. It's not a brag, but it's the truth. I don't need it. All right. That's the place so many of us AA ulsters have come to, and it's a hell of a spot, literally. How shall our unconscious, from which so many of our fears, compulsions, and phony aspirations still stream, be brought into line with what we actually believe, know, and want? How to convince our dumb raging and hidden Mr. Hyde becomes our main task. See, Mr. Hyde isn't just about alcohol. I'm going to give you a fantastic example here. Robin Williams. See, the more people protrude on the outside on how life great is, are usually suffering inside. Most comedians are suffering. Well, this world tortured Robin Williams, man. It did. I've seen some of his videos towards the end there, and I feel really bad for him. So what are we talking about? We're talking about depression. In this case, we're talking about depression. But any kind of emotion overdone is bad for an alcoholic. This applies to most mental illnesses here. These are what we're talking about. We're talking about mental illnesses. And alcoholism in and of itself is a mental illness. I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. I believe so because I begin to see many benighted ones, folks like you and me, commencing to get real results. Last autumn, depression, having no really rational cause at all, almost took me to the cleaners. I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. Considering the grief I've had with depression, it wasn't a bright prospect. I kept asking myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It's better to comfort than to be comforted. Here was the formula, all right, but why didn't it work? We're about to find out. Suddenly, I realized what the matter was. My basic flaw had always been dependence. Almost absolute dependence on people or circumstances. This supplies me with prestige, security, and the like. Expectations, demands that we put on other people for our own emotional stability. It runs rampant nowadays. It ain't gonna be long before it all hits the fan, and most of the shit online is just gonna be gone. Days coming when social media is gonna end. Social media is horrible. It really is. It used to be the internet. You could go there. It was so we could share information. It was all it was supposed to be for. But we humans just like to pervert everything, don't we? Do you know that step 13 used to mean that you died sober? That's another good example of how we end up perverting things. All right. I got to get my likes. I got to get my loves. How come nobody comments on it? Do you not like me? It is so easy to be something. It is so easy to be Mr. Hyde. Especially when you can edit, which I do not do. And I don't edit for a reason. I don't have anything to hide. I no longer have anything to hide. what do we really kind of talk about here? We're talking about self-esteem. See, when we utilize other people in order to make us feel better, whether it be a heart emoji or a like emoji, some people even base it off of money. That's how the man that raised me was like that. He thought money was love. Thought it equated love. Well, I'll give you $50 if you do what I say. You know, maybe if you just spent some time with me, you could go ahead and keep your $50. But apparently his time was worth more than any money he was willing to give me. Right? So, dependency to supply me with security and prestige. Look how high he can jump. That's all I see, people. That's all I really see anymore, people. Look how high I can jump. Look at me. Look at me. See what I can do? Look what I can do. Right? Now, I get it. I love being the center of attention. I really do. But I put it in the right arena. Right? Failing to get these according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I had fought for them, and when defeat came, so did my depression. This is a setup. People will fail you. It is human nature. They're going to disappoint you. They're going to upset you. Even a group of drunks will fail. Go check out some of those meetings. I don't think it's very smart to use a group of drunks as your higher power, but gosh, you can start anywhere, I guess, right? Doorknob, even a doorknob's going to turn on you. We got to get down to things. We got to start being honest about what's actually going on, right? Yeah. So, there wasn't a chance of making the outgoing love of St. Francis a workable and joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolute dependencies were cut away. Because I had over the years undergone a little bit of spiritual development, the absolute quality of these frightful dependencies had never before been so starkly revealed. Reinforced by what grace I could secure in prayer, I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people, upon AA, indeed, upon any circumstances whatsoever. This is where your willpower comes into place. You have willpower, but we have to stop depending on other people for our own self-esteem. How can I love others when I can't love myself yet? How can I love others when I'm being inappropriate about it? Can't. Right? Reinforced by what grace, then only can I be free to love as Francis had. And this next line is where I get a lot of stuff. Listen to this. Emotional and instinctual satisfactions I saw were really the extra dividends of having love, offering love, and expressing a love appropriate to each relation of life. I love you all equally, but I love you differently. Make sense? I love you all equally. I have a different love for my son than I do for my daughter. I can't describe it, but I feel it. I don't treat them the same. Why? Because they're different people. They're different people. I don't love everybody the same. But I do have to become appropriate. Right? I used to be a big flirty person. Oh, it was just part of my nature. No, it was this. It was my faulty dependencies upon other people. Now I don't do that anymore. I don't feel the need to. I don't need it. Yeah. So emotional and instinctual satisfactions were the extra dividends of giving away, not keeping. Now I have tons of dividends. Most of them are good. Right. So plainly, I could not avail myself to God's love until I was able to offer it back to Him by loving others as He would have me. How does God want me to show love in this situation? And I couldn't possibly do that so long as I was victimized by self dependencies. In this case, victimized is our own doing. Okay. Trust. I trust, this is how much I trust people. I trust that you're human and you're going to make mistakes just like me, and that's okay. That's my trust. I don't need any more than that because I can love appropriately. I don't need more than that. There's also different levels and types of trust. All right. All right. For my dependency meant demand. A demand for the possession and control of the people and the conditions surrounding me. It's like it's like, you ever been white river rafting? Okay. Have you ever tried to stop the raft? Maybe try and force it to go the other way. It ain't gonna work, is it? But it's a demand. If you don't get it, then everybody's gonna pay. Well, what an impossible task to ask for a demand that just supplies you with the right to be angry. Justifiable anger. Well, I'm mad. Did you see what? Well, you don't know what they did to me. I get it. People have done some horrible things to me. People did horrible things to me yesterday. Might happen again today. Am I going to allow my happiness to be dependent upon other people? Because that's what this is. While these words, absolute dependencies, may look like a gimmick, they are the ones that help to trigger my release in the present degree of stability and quietness of mind, qualities which I am now trying to consolidate by offering love to others, regardless of the return to me. What does that sound like? Sounds like unconditional love to me. People talk about that, but I hear it all the time in meetings. People talk about unconditional love, but then their actions show me that their love is still conditional. They'll get there, maybe. They'll get there someday. My love can't be conditional. Even the people that were talking shit yesterday, still love them. Doesn't mean I have to hang out with them. But the only requirement for me to love you is that you're a child of God. I'm not going to make terms on love. I can't do that. That'd be like me making terms on forgiveness. I can't do that. It's not within my power. You know, what else can I do to get you to forgive me? Well, I'll do this, this, and this. No. I'm sorry, but I don't jump through hoops for other people's forgiveness. I don't. Mm-mm. I will do whatever I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be right according to God's will, not yours. Not. If I think it's reasonable, if I feel it's reasonable, I'll do it. Maybe I owe money. Oh, well, maybe I owed somebody 500. Well, since you're like 12 years late, let's add another $100 onto that. I could go for that. Yeah, that sounds about fair, right? But if they say that you got to do this and do this and there's a list of demands that I must fulfill in order to get somebody else's forgiveness, no, I don't do demands. This works both ways. Yeah. This seems to be the primary healing circuit, an outgoing love of God's creation and his people by means of which we avail ourselves for his love. It is most clear that the real current can't flow until our paralyzing dependencies are broken, and broken at depth. Only then can we possibly have a glimmer of what adult love really is. It's like when you're weeding your garden, right? Let's say you're weeding your garden. Well, you got to get down to the root, right? You got to get down to those roots or they're going to fester and come back. These are the same things. I have to break them at the root permanently. Spiritual calculus, you say? Not a bit. Watch any AA of 6 months working on a new 12-step case. If the case says to devil with you, the 12th stepper only smiles and turns to another case. He doesn't feel frustrated or rejected, right? I've had plenty of sponsees tell me, hey, Dion, this isn't quite working for me. I'm going to look for another sponsor. Okay. It is their choice. It's not my recovery. And, that's why there's different types of recovery out there. We all kind of sponsor or been sponsored different ways, right? So he doesn't feel frustrated or rejected. If his next case responds and starts to give love and attention to other alcoholic, yet gives none back to him, the sponsor's happy about it anyway. Yeah, I'm happy about it anyway. I didn't help that person because I expected something from them, including their love. You giving me love is not a requirement for my help. No. Maybe you're still working on this. I had to work very hard on this. So maybe you're still working on that. So you're staying away from it because it might be inappropriate for you right now. That is okay too. That is a realization and a good realization to be at. Got to start somewhere. Michelle says, I had that happen. My sponsor just said that and I feel fine. Yeah, it's okay. We're all like here, if you just listen to me and that's it, your recovery is going to suck, man. Listen to different people. Definitely get different ideas because it's your recovery. It's not for me to decide, He still doesn't feel rejected. Instead, he rejoices that his one-time prospect is sober and happy. I used to get real jealous when people in the program would progress and do these other things. This was like in the beginning of my sobriety and when I was sober before too. Now I rejoice. Now my thought process is this, like my kids. I want my kids to surpass me. I do. I want my sponsees. I want all of you to surpass me because if you do that, we both go up. And you don't have to do it with me. I'm still going to be happy for you. Yes, I am. Now I love watching people get their shit back together. I rejoice in it. And if his next fallen case turns out in later time to be his best friend or romance, then the sponsor is most joyful. But he knows well that his happiness is a byproduct, the extra dividend of giving without any demand for return. Where there's a difference between a need and a want, right? I think we can agree on that, right? See, it used to be while I was drinking, I needed my wife in my life. Now I want her in my life. Big difference. The really stabilizing thing for him was having and offering love to that strange junk on his doorstep. That was Francis at work. Powerful and practical, minus dependency, minus demand. In the first 6 months of my own sobriety, I worked hard with many alcoholics. Not a one responded. Yet this work kept me sober. It wasn't a question of those alcoholics giving me anything. My stability came out of trying to give, not out of demanding that I receive. I've already received it. I'm ahead on my gifts. The first gift I got was I was relieved of the obsession to drink, and I did nothing for it. It was a free gift. I am ahead on my gifts. That's why I don't need it. I get these extra dividends. I don't need them to supply me with it. If they do, what a great dividend. What a great byproduct. Yeah. One other quick thing, it's a little different than what we're talking about on that. As a sponsor, I am 100% successful. I am still sober. It doesn't matter if my sponsees slip or relapse or do this or do that. I have no control over them, and their success is not mine. Their failure is not mine. I do not own that. I do not let sponsees become so dependent upon me that I am the reason that they are sober. No. Or that I'm the reason that, this and that. No. You did the work. I'm not doing anything for you that hundreds of people didn't do for me before. Took their time out to help Dion without without expecting anything from me. Why was that? Because I didn't have anything to give. I didn't. In that situation, I had nothing to give. So what I did was I respected their time. It was the only thing that I could do, right? Thus, I think it can work out with emotional sobriety. If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we'll find at the root of it some unhealthy dependency and its consequent unhealthy demand. Let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hobbling demands. Then we can be set free to live and love. We may then be able to 12th step ourselves and others into emotional sobriety. See, we got to be set free. These are more dependencies, more character defects that we have to be set free of so we can learn how to love the right way. And we're not even talking about lust here. We're not talking about sex. It's not what we're talking about. See? The alcoholic mind having the cart before the horse. There's a lot of pretty people in AA. And then there's some of us like me who are just ugly. I'm kidding. I don't think I'm ugly. But I'm trying to make a point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, you heard earlier. I told you I used to flirt a lot, right? Because it was for my self-esteem, which wasn't self-esteem. That's they esteem, right? Well, I don't do that, and now I'm considered I'm safe, man. Not only that, but it's kind of disrespecting my wife, and I ain't going for that shit no more. Even if it's quote unquote innocent. No, it's disrespectful to my wife. And that's the reason. That is the reason. And what did it do? Well, it just made me a better person. It made me safe. Yeah. People tend to figure it out. It's often husbands get mad at me for a little bit. Well, who's this Dion guy? And Dion, you always talk about Dion. Yeah. I ain't hitting on your wife. Trust me. Okay. It's not what it's about. They usually figure it out and they're like, okay, you know, Dion's not gonna, no. Just trust your wife. Trust your, yeah. All right. Of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea, only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes at depth. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I have been given a quiet place in the bright sunshine. Yeah. All right, that's going to be it for this one. You can tell where I read a lot, right? It's emotional sobriety. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. Remember, we got a 5 o'clock meeting today. It'd be great to see everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. I got a spot see in 9 minutes. So I'm going to go do that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out. And